Buckle up. Hello, you absolute legends, and welcome to Digiverse. And today we're diving headfirst into a question that's about as delicate as a panda in a porcelain shop. Could China, with its magnificent history and its penchant for, shall we say, firm governance, ever become democratic? It's a doozy, isn't it? Like trying to predict the winner of a race between a tortoise on roller skates and a hare that's clearly been hitting the bamboo a bit too hard. But fear not, dear viewers, because we're going to unpack this geopolitical puzzle with the kind of rigor usually reserved for disassembling a nuclear warhead, except with fewer explosions. Hopefully, we'll break it down step by step, covering the major aspects that influence this possibility. From the current state of affairs in the glorious Middle Kingdom to the theories of democratization and the unique challenges China faces, we'll leave no stone unturned. So grab your thinking caps, pour yourselves a cup of jasmine tea, or a stiff drink, I'm not judging, and let's get into it. Right then, let's talk about China's current political setup. Imagine a giant gleaming skyscraper. Now, picture the Communist Party of China, or CCP, as the building's only tenant landlord and, let's be honest, probably the architect. They call the shots, and everyone else, well, they kind of just exist within the structure. See, China operates under a one-party system. That means no messy multi-party elections, no back-and-forth debates in parliament that resemble a drunken brawl in a karaoke bar. The CCP is the main act, and the understudies are, well, let's just say they know their place. Now, you might be thinking, don't they have elections? And you'd be technically correct. China does have something called the National People's Congress, or NPC. They meet up every year, look very official in their suits, and rubber stamp whatever the CCP has decided. It's democracy, but with the volume turned down to a whisper. And how does the CCP maintain this level of control, you ask? Oh, they've got a whole arsenal of tools. Think of it as their very own political toolkit, complete with media censorship, mass surveillance, and good old-fashioned suppression of dissent. Imagine a world where your internet is filtered, your phone calls might be monitored, and speaking out against the government could land you in hot water. It's like living in an episode of Black Mirror, except it's not an episode, it's just life. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. China has seen remarkable economic growth and stability under this system. So while it might not be the freewheeling democracy we're used to in the West, it's a system that, for better or worse, works for them. For now, at least. Now, let's talk about those fancy theories of democratization. The ones that political scientists love to throw around like confetti at a particularly boring academic conference. One of the most popular is the modernization theory. It basically goes like this. As a country gets richer and more educated, its citizens will demand more political freedom, leading to democracy. It's like the political equivalent of you can't keep a good dog tied up forever. Then there's the crisis-driven change theory. This one suggests that major upheavals like economic collapse or social unrest can shake things up enough to trigger a transition to democracy. Think of it as the you learn a lot from your mistakes approach to political science. So why hasn't China, with its booming economy and occasional hiccups, followed either of these well-trodden paths to democracy? Well, it's complicated, like trying to explain the rules of cricket to an American who thinks baseball is exciting. Firstly, the CCP has been very clever about maintaining control over economic reforms. They've allowed just enough economic freedom to keep people happy and the money flowing, but not so much that it threatens their grip on power. It's a delicate balancing act, like trying to juggle chainsaws while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. Secondly, there's a significant chunk of the Chinese population, particularly the growing middle class, who prioritize stability and economic growth over political freedom. They've seen their lives improve dramatically in recent decades and are, understandably, a bit hesitant to rock the boat. Now, some folks look at the collapse of the Soviet Union and think, see, authoritarian regimes are doomed to fail, but China isn't the USSR. They've learned from its mistakes and have been much more adept at adapting to the changing world. That being said, there are potential triggers for change in China. Economic inequality, environmental degradation, and social unrest could all put pressure on the CCP's grip on power. But whether these pressures will be enough to spark a democratic transition is a question that even the most insightful political scientist wouldn't dare answer with certainty. Let's be real, folks. China faces some serious hurdles on the road to democracy. It's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of bricks while wearing a lead suit. Not impossible, but definitely not a walk in the park. First off, the CCP is like that annoyingly adaptable cockroach that just won't die, no matter how much you spray it. They've got a knack for reinventing themselves, co-opting new technologies, and finding ways to stay relevant. They're like the political equivalent of a chameleon wearing a suit of armor made of iPhones. Then there's the whole nationalism thing. The CCP has been incredibly successful at tapping into a deep vein of national pride, promoting the idea that China's rise is a direct result of their leadership. It's a potent brew, and it makes it difficult for alternative political visions to gain traction. And let's not forget about public opinion. While there's definitely a desire for more individual freedoms and a say in how the country is run, there's also a lot of support for the CCP, especially among older generations who remember the chaos and poverty of the pre-reform era. But perhaps the biggest obstacle to democratization in China is the CCP's Orwellian embrace of surveillance and digital authoritarianism. They've created a vast network of cameras, facial recognition software, and social credit systems that allow them to monitor and control their citizens on an unprecedented scale. It's like Big Brother on steroids with a side of artificial intelligence. And if you need a cautionary tale about the challenges of democratization in China's shadow, look no further than Hong Kong and Taiwan. Both have faced immense pressure from Beijing, serving as stark reminders of the CCP's determination to maintain its grip on power. So, where does China go from here? Will it be democracy or dictatorship? Will it be freedom or further control? Well, if you find someone who claims to know the answer, they're either lying or they've got a direct line to fortune cookies that actually tell the future. Let's be real, predicting the future of a country as complex and dynamic as China is like trying to herd cats while riding a unicycle on a tightrope during an earthquake. It's a fool's errand, but that doesn't mean we can't indulge in a bit of educated speculation. Scenario 1. Gradual reform. Imagine the CCP, like a wise old panda, realizing that clinging to power too tightly might just make it slip away. They could choose to gradually loosen their grip, allowing for more political participation, freedom of speech, and maybe even, dare we dream, multi-party elections. It's a long shot, but hey, stranger things have happened. Scenario 2. Crisis leads to change. Remember that crisis-driven change theory we talked about? Well, China's not immune to economic downturns, environmental disasters, or social unrest. Any of these could spark a crisis that weakens the CCP's grip on power, potentially opening the door for democratic reforms. It's not the most optimistic path to democracy, but sometimes you got to break a few eggs to make an omelette. Scenario 3. No change, more control. This is the scenario that keeps human rights activists up at night. The CCP doubles down on its authoritarian tendencies, tightening its grip on power, expanding surveillance and cracking down on any form of dissent. Think Black Mirror on a national scale and you're starting to get the picture. So which scenario is most likely? Honestly, it's anyone's guess. China's future depends on a complex interplay of factors, from economic stability and public opinion to technological advancements and the CCP's own internal dynamics. It's a constantly evolving situation, and only time will tell what the future holds for this global powerhouse. So will China ever be democratic? In the short term, it seems very unlikely. The CCP is firmly in control, and they've shown no indication of willingly giving up power. It's like trying to convince a dragon to share its hoard of gold. In the medium term, it's possible if a major crisis occurs. A significant economic downturn, a widespread environmental disaster, or a sustained period of social unrest could weaken the CCP's grip on power, potentially creating an opening for democratic reforms. In the long term, it's uncertain but more likely over time. As China continues to develop economically and its citizens become more educated and connected to the outside world, the demand for political freedom and participation is likely to grow. Whether the CCP will adapt to these demands or double down on control remains to be seen. China's future depends on a complex interplay of factors, including economic stability, public opinion shifts, and the CCP's ability to maintain technological control. It's a fascinating and unpredictable story that will continue to unfold in the years to come. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We're dying to know what you think.